Greetings once again. I'm Aleksander Mehrle with WOPR. Here are the top 5 stories of the week, with more in-depth analysis to follow. The Fat Lady sings for Wagner. Luna 25 crashes on the moon. Putin tries to phone a friend in South Africa. Camp David meetup, a prelude to NATO in the Pacific. Russia is strong, so it's time for peace. The biggest story of the week was, of course, the downing of the private jet over the Tver Oblast carrying the leadership of the Wagner Group, including Yevgeny Prigozhin and Dmitry Utkin. Speculation abounds that the plane was intentionally brought down exactly 2 months after Wagner's failed rebellion. President Putin, who many suspect of ordering the hit on Prigozhin and Wagner, offered his sincere condolences to the families of the victims of the crash. Speaking of Prigozhin, he noted that they had known each other since the 1990s, and that Prigozhin was a talented businessman who had made serious mistakes in his life. His biggest mistake, it seems, might have been to trust the agreement struck with President Putin after the failed coup. The Wagner Group's private plane wasn't the only thing to crash this week. Luna 25, Russia's first lunar mission in 47 years, failed with the craft spinning out of control and crashing into the moon. Russia hasn't said much about the incident, initially just reporting it as an abnormal situation. In its post-crash statement, Roscosmos said that it would put together a committee to investigate the precise mode of failure of Luna 25. The lack of information is unsurprising. At a time when Russia could have used a prestige boost on the global stage, the failure instead underscores the country's decline. Also this week, India succeeded where Russia failed, landing the Chandrayaan-3 mission safely on the moon's unexplored South Pole on Wednesday. On the international stage, 2 summits were the focal point. For Russia, it was the BRICS summit, hosted by South Africa. Perhaps the biggest news of the week came well before the summit even began, with South Africa asking President Putin not to attend due to his outstanding ICC arrest warrant. Attending virtually, President Putin tried to paint Russia as a reliable partner for Africa, in particular for food and fuel. Another key theme of his remarks was to galvanize the BRICS countries and the global south as a counterbalance to what he described as Western hegemony, which he directly blamed as the root cause for the war in Ukraine. In the United States, a more sparsely attended but highly symbolic and impactful affair grabbed global headlines when a historic meeting between President Biden, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol at Camp David led to fears in China and Russia of NATO and the Pacific taking shape. Russia's narrative on the war in Ukraine was pervasive and consistent throughout the week, centered around showcasing Russia's size, power, and influence, both in terms of natural and human resources and, of course, military might. This is coupled with an emphasis on the perceived weakness of Ukraine and the waning Western appetite to continue supporting it. Taken together, Russia is making a very concerted effort to convince the world that the war has reached a stalemate, precisely so that the West withdraws support and pressures Ukraine to sue for a peace favorable to Russia. The view here at WOPR is that the persistence and veracity of these messages gives the impression that things are not going well for Russia on the battlefield. If Russia really believed itself to be strong and Ukraine weak, the last thing they'd do is sue for peace. That's all for this week. At WOPR, we remain on the front line of these narratives, decoding them for you. Until our next briefing, stay sharp and stay informed.